Let's be honest here. The All Blacks are walking straight towards self-destruction, and Matt Williams is absolutely right to call it out. Because what New Zealand Rugby have just done doesn't look like bold leadership. It looks like panic. Sacking Scott Robertson halfway into a contract is not just harsh, it's destabilizing. You don't build long-term dominance by ripping up a project before it's even had time to breathe. And this is the All Blacks we're talking about. A team that used to pride itself on continuity, patience, and trust in systems. You cannot just terminate a head coach midway through a contract and expect the rest of the rugby world to take you seriously. That sends a message, not just to players, but to future coaches, that no one is safe, no matter the plan, no matter the promise. And here's where Matt Williams absolutely nails it. Australian coach and outspoken pundit Matt Williams felt that Scott Robertson's dismissal was exceptionally harsh, but is taking pleasure in the crisis the All Blacks find themselves in. New Zealand Rugby are searching for a new head coach after they decided to terminate Robertson's contract midway through his 4-year deal. It is a huge call from the governing body and brings about significant upheaval with the Rugby World Cup now under 2 years away. Considering the dominance the All Blacks have generally enjoyed over the past century, it is a remarkable situation. Williams, who has coached the Waratahs, Leinster, and Scotland during his career, is certainly enjoying it and quipped, "It's great to see the Kiwis in a mess, isn't it?" Not a great era of New Zealand players. "It's nuts what's happening in New Zealand. It is pretty much unprecedented," he told off the ball. "You've got to have player power. Players need to be empowered. What the rumor is, some players said that if he is the coach, we're not playing. It seems impossible for me to comprehend that 18 months out from a World Cup, people are going to walk away from the team, from the legacy, from their last ever World Cup. New Zealand's a very, very tough place to be the head coach. They're never happy unless you win every game. It's been a series of appointments from within, and then for the first time they cut it and Robbo came in. Coaching an international team is a different planet to coaching a club side, and Robbo's 4-year plan was to have 4 quality players in every position before the next World Cup. What have you got to do that? You've got to give guys time. When you're trying to develop players, that takes a toll on the team. I think it is exceptionally harsh. I don't think this is a great era of New Zealand players. All the New Zealand journos saying, no one respects us anymore. We're not the best. They're blaming the coach. South Africa are better than anyone on the planet. There's not much between the next 5 teams. Now they can't cope with that answer. What's the answer? They sack the coach, and they're going to bring in someone else. New Zealand Rugby seem to think they're copying the Rassie Erasmus blueprint. They're looking at South Africa and saying, Rassie stepped in mid-cycle, shook things up, and won a World Cup. Let's do the same. But that's a dangerous comparison. Rassie Erasmus was not just another coach. He walked into the Springboks with total authority, deep cultural alignment, and a long-term vision that went way beyond one tournament. He wasn't a panic button. He was a strategist who had been laying foundations long before results showed up on the scoreboard. Trying to replicate that without the same structure, without the same buy-in, and without the same rugby ecosystem, that's where things can go very wrong. Because the All Blacks are not South Africa. New Zealand Rugby has different pressures, a different media environment, and a fan base that expects immediate dominance. And that expectation is exactly what's driving this self-destructive behavior. Instead of allowing Robertson to rebuild, to experiment, to bleed new players properly, they've decided that short-term discomfort is unacceptable. And that's how great teams slowly lose their edge. What happens now? You get uncertainty in the squad. Players start second-guessing selections. Leadership groups fracture. Younger players stop trusting the process because the process clearly isn't protected from above. And worse, the All Blacks risk losing their identity. This team used to be ruthless because it was stable. Systems were clear. Standards were consistent. Coaches weren't constantly looking over their shoulder wondering if one bad series would end everything. Right now, it feels like New Zealand Rugby are reacting, not leading. Matt Williams isn't celebrating because he hates the All Blacks. He's calling it out because he sees the warning signs. Other nations have gone down this road before.
coaching churn, rushed decisions, chasing shortcuts instead of building foundations. And yes, there is a very real possibility that the All Blacks face a significant setback on the world stage because of this. Not overnight, but gradually, through confusion, through loss of confidence, through erosion of trust. You don't rebuild greatness by copying someone else's miracle story and hoping lightning strikes twice. You rebuild it by backing your plan, even when it's uncomfortable. So the big question is this: have New Zealand Rugby lost their nerve, or do they genuinely believe chaos will somehow lead them back to dominance? Because right now, this doesn't look like evolution. It looks like self-inflicted damage. And rugby history is very clear about how that usually ends.